A very special thank you to President Tshisekedi and to President Ramaphosa. Thank you for honoring my father with your travel over these great distances to be here today. From the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Africa, we're grateful. The hour is late, and morning is calling for her son before we go. Let me say a final word about my father, my friend, and the legend, the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. For that is what he was, a legend, a miracle, a special occurrence. You see, it's a kind of a phenomenon that only appears in the universe, I've determined, every 100 years or so. That the universe, when the moon is low, life goes looking for a hero. I'm not a fan of the current president of the United States of America. But he did get one thing right when my father passed. He said the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson was indeed a force of nature. Brothers and sisters, had we not seen him with our own eyes, future generations would scarcely believe that such a man ever truly existed in the simplicity of flesh and blood. Because according to how things are supposed to work out in America, Reverend Jesse Jackson was born to be a nobody, and the politics of his circumstance had pre-selected him to die that way. Here is a man conceived in rejection, born into poverty, grew up in a segregated part of America that was habitualized by hatred, and reared in the arms of a nation that was so saturated with hypocrisy that it had the nerve to treat him upon birth like he was a criminal, when it had stolen his ancestors from Africa 400 years ago. I want you to understand what you're looking at. Reverend Jesse Jackson was too tall to hide, too poor to be included, too black to be respected, and the only thing that saved him was the fact that he was too bold and outspoken to be ignored. My father, my friend, Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, was never supposed to be the kind of a person to have presidents and world leaders at his memorial service. But ironically, somebody forgot to tell Reverend Jesse Jackson that. So brothers and sisters, like the passing of time and like the falling of water and like the changing of seasons, like the coming of night and like the breaking of day, and like the love of Jesus Christ, Jesse Jackson would not be denied. And in spite of what America thought of him at his birth, he stood like a honeybee at the door of the honey hive, only thinking of the sweetness as he charmed every obstacle he faced in life. The hour is late, and we are talking about, indeed, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. The fact that he walked with kings and negotiated with presidents cannot be used to measure the depth and breadth of the vastness of his significance. Because to understand the conundrum of his life and his rise, you have to go back and understand what Jesus said. Jesus said, "Whoever is to be the greatest among you, let them be a servant." And if the measure of our faith is determined by how courageous we are in the face of danger, then certainly the measure of our humanity is determined by what we are willing to sacrifice for somebody else. Anybody can be passionate about an issue that affects you, but only somebody who has been claimed by something greater than themselves can stand up for people whose names they don't even know. My father was touched by the mighty Lord. I want you to understand what you're looking at. These are not the bones of some raging narcissist who only cared about himself. Nor are these the resting hands, Judge, of a man who used cruelty to make a name for himself. Brothers and sisters, these are not the quiet remains of someone who took more out of life than what he gave back. That is not, nor will it ever be, the lasting legacy of the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. My father tried to help somebody. My father tried to love somebody. My father tried to let every child know that he is somebody. My father wanted to make sure that the world he was born into would be better than the world he was leaving. He tried to make the crooked ways straight. And I want the world to know that my father believed in love. He believed in the dignity of all human beings. And he believed that just because you were born in the slum was not born in you. So for the children on the reservations, in the barrios, in the ghettos, he was speaking to you. In fact, my father believed in America more than America believed in itself. My father honored the words of the Declaration of Independence more than the men who signed it. Jesse Jackson honored the ideals of the Constitution of the United States of America more than any of the 25 slaveholders that signed and ratified it in their hypocrisy. Reverend Barber, my father was attacked for talking about diversity. He was vilified for his stand on equality. And had the people who wanted to kill him had their way, we would have never have seen a rainbow coalition believing in multiracial harmony. He understood that we all had a constitutional right to be included. Now let me tell you something quite personal. As a child, I noticed that none of my friends had parents that routinely were demonstrating, boycotting, participating in peace activities every weekend. We were dragged up on this stage every week marching for someone, boycotting corporations, demonstrating, seeking peaceful solutions, being a part of protests. I didn't care for the protest movements much myself. I found it embarrassing. I was embarrassed as a child to see my father protesting and boycotting week after week. I didn't understand economic exclusion and the fight for economic inclusion. I didn't understand what was happening in South Africa and apartheid. I didn't understand. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a great source of pain for me to hear people talk about my father. But let me tell you, that was only because I was a child. And when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I understood like a child. And I thought like a child. But when I became a man, I put those childish things away. So I'm proud to say, last time I got arrested was with Reverend Barber. I didn't have his phone number, but we got our Social Security numbers in Washington, D.C., fighting for the right to vote, Reverend. My father's arrest record embarrassed me. But as a man, I am so proud of the fact that he went to jail standing up for the rights of others. He made a difference in the lives of millions of people's lives. I'm proud to say that my father, my friend, my hero, my pastor, my confidant, my biggest cheerleader, my political advisor. When I was at my worst, I saw a man at his best, and I'm proud to call him my father. The other day when we sat here to have a public viewing, I was there for almost 12 hours and greeted thousands of people. And I said to myself, you should honor thy mother and thy father. But something came into my head and said, what an honor it is to have Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson as your father. What an honor it is to have Reverend Jesse Jackson Lewis as your father. When I was standing there exhausted and trying to work out my own grief through exhaustion, a woman said something to me that I will never forget. She was an older black woman who had just gotten off of her shift, took the bus over here because the services were late, and she had the kind of eyes that you could see she had seen the shores of many battles. Her stature was small, her hands were strong, but something about the way she grabbed my hands told me that she knew something about Jesus. As she grabbed my hands and pulled me into her, she said to me, Congressman Jackson, I only voted for you because of your father. Then she went on to say, and I assumed whatever he had in his DNA was going to be in you too. I don't know if that woman is here today, but let me assure you, my sister, whatever he had in his DNA is in me too. We're going to keep on fighting to be peacemakers. We're going to keep on fighting for civil rights. We're going to keep on fighting for equality. And no matter who's in the White House, we're going to stand for diversity, equity, and inclusion so that everybody can have participation in this country. In closing, I'm a better man because my father lived. I couldn't have got here without him. I'm a better man because he loved. And I'm a better human being because he taught me that the rights of the individuals do not come from the generosity of the state, but rather from the hand of God. He taught me that any society that will not support the many who are poor will never be able to save the few who are rich. He taught me that good intentions are not enough because in order to be a follower of Jesus Christ, you have to pick up your cross. Jesus said not to praise him, he said to follow him. He taught me that tears and sweat are both salty. He told me to dry your eyes and get back to work. You've got to make a difference. He told me the most dependable hand I have is at the end of my wrist. Put my hand in God's hand and he will see you through. He taught me that equality is only oppression to people who are benefiting from human suffering. He taught me that when life isn't easy, it still can be satisfying. He told me that the only person who doesn't like it when the sheep get smarter is a wolf trying to make him his meal. You can say whatever you want about my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, but one thing you have to admit, he shook up this country and shook up this world. Let's get to the good news in the gospel. Jesse Jackson, he made sure that American corporations were able to share some of the benefits with those that have been locked out and excluded, those of us that had experienced American segregation, American apartheid, that had been excluded from reciprocal trade agreements. Jesse Jackson was not a politician. He was a public servant. Don't let that fact change you that he changed the Democratic Party. Jesse Jackson not only changed the party, because in America, that's the only viable way to change the world. My father was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth, did not have health benefits, my mother and father, when they were teenage mothers and fathers, born to teenage mothers and fathers. They had nothing but a faith. My father was not born into a prominent family. He tells you Jackson is our third name, who bequeathed him a large sum of money or multinational or institutional respect. But look at what the Lord has done. Today, presidents and international leaders, politicians, working people have come from the four corners of the earth to give thanks for a life of a man who was rejected by his father, born to a teenage mother, hated by his country, and considered a second-class citizen on the day of his birth. Look at what the Lord has done. And the same God that did it for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, he can do it for you. So I say to you, what David said in the second book of Samuel. The Bible says that upon hearing of the death of Abner, David lifted his voice and declared, "And do you not know that a great man has fallen this day in Israel?" And yes, it is true that among us today, a great man has fallen. And because he is no longer here, there will forever be a hole in the forest my father once stood. But in the midst of our sadness, I've got good news, that death is not the end of this story, because we only die to live again. We have lived this life, and there is life after this life. Today, Mama, your lion sleeps, but when he wakes up, all of his troubles will be over. No more death threats, no more bomb threats, no more being talked about, no more being betrayed, no more being lied upon, no more being misunderstood, no more having to be nice to people who are plotting to evilly destroy you, no more pain, no more supranuclear Parkinson, no more trips to the hospital, no more wheelchairs, no more medication, Dad. My father told me he was going to walk again. And I said, "No, Dad, but you can't." He said, "There are no wheelchairs in heaven." When this lion wakes up, he will have his crown. And the Bible calls it a crown of life. We used to say, "Run, Jesse, run." But I heard something the other day, Mom. When the gates of heaven opened up, I heard, "Run, Jesse, run." And then I looked down and I could see, "Rise, Jesse, rise." I heard heaven saying, "Now rise, Jesse, rise." It says you fought a good fight. It said, "Rise, Jesse, rise." It says you held on to your faith. Now rise, Jesse, rise. It says you ran the good fight and you fought it. Rise, Jesse, rise. It said to the South Africans, "It's time to rise, South Africa, rise." It said to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, "Rise, Jesse, rise." We know, Dad, You're walking around heaven now with your mentor, the Reverend Martin Luther King. Please tell Reverend King we're going to hold on to his dream. Please tell Patrice Lumumba we're still fighting for you. Please tell Nelson Mandela and Fidel Castro we've got the rainbow pushes on. Please tell Jimmy Lee Jackson and Selma we've not forgot you. Please tell Rosa Parks we're going to stand up and keep on marching. Please tell Nehru in India that we're going to have a vision for our nation. Please tell Mahatma Gandhi we're going to go about this in peace. Please tell all the freedom fighters, the soldiers in the civil rights movement that we've not forgotten the fight. Please tell your spiritual mentor, the Reverend Samuel DeWitt Proctor, that he has thousands and thousands of spiritual children. Please tell the Reverend Clay Evans that he was right, that it is no secret what God can do, what he's done for others, he can do for you. With his arms wide open, he'll pardon you. Rise, Jesse, rise. Rise, Jesse, rise. Can you hear? Keep hope alive. Can you hear? Keep hope alive. Can you hear?